place upon the face of beauty a fine and rigid definition is to misunderstand the beautiful. True beauty is as fluid as the sea, as changeable as the sky, as unpredictable as the vagaries of the wind. Born in moments of instantaneous insight, as sudden as summer lightning, yet as timeless and lasting as the stars. The essence of beauty is beauty discovered. And so the quest is joined, the quest for Washington the Beautiful. Somehow we think of islands as places apart, islands of peace, islands of beauty, islands of tranquility. And these islands, the magnificent San Juans, are all those, and more. For if gentleness and solemnity and contemplation have a home, surely this is it. The endless play of waves upon uncounted beaches lulls away all trace of stress and strain. The ceaseless rhythm of water over pebbles is mesmerizing in its enervating cadence. No care can long survive the spell of these magical islands. And when cares are gone, when worries vanish, we're left with hearts laid open to romance, to dreams, to flights of idyllic fancy that bring us inevitably closer to ourselves. This is a geography as wild and as fearsome as the ocean and the sky it punctuates. The spiny Olympic Peninsula punches up into the Pacific like a mailed fist. Rugged rock sweeps abruptly upward, startling the serene, complacent sky, pushing hard against an arching blue, forcing its way up through a reluctant ceiling and out into a disgruntled sea. As if in protest against this mountainous invasion, the ocean births huge, heavily laden clouds, and the clouds counterattack with a ceaseless barrage of rain. And so this is the mythical temperate rainforest. This is the rainforest of prehistory, the thick, twisted canebrake of giants, the cathedral steeples, the rotting old man jungle hulks, the sepulchral silence, and the numbing, never-ending rain. To the west, the imperious Pacific exercises an uncharacteristic guile. Faced with the hard, bare knuckles of a stubborn coast, the sea often spends itself not in batter and bludgeon, but in the delicate etching of wistful bays and arching beaches. This is a muted ocean, a whisper instead of a wail, and it seeks to lull, to deceive. For ultimately, the Pacific is a jealous and vengeful creature. Ultimately, she attacks these stony ramparts with a ferocity that has earned for this battleground the reputation as a graveyard for any ship foolish enough to venture between these eternal combatants. Up from the South Pacific purrs a playful wind, a domesticated wind, eager to please. A wind delighted to choreograph a colorful ballet out at the ends of 100 gossamer strings. It curves down from the Strait of Juan de Fuca, flowing into a grateful heartland in a flood of passion and purpose. Puget Sound, a long salton wound, torn open 100 miles, surging with life, pulsing with tidal energy, eagerly going about its business. Washington's window on the world, weighing all manner of ships upon its broad back, teeming with commerce, bearing on itself the buoyant hopes of the millions of people lining its shores. Puget Sound tames the Pacific beast, hooks and catches it on 1,000 points and promontories, calming it, breaking it, and ultimately putting it to work. A rich, flat plain endures its annual flood, not of seawater, but of color. Millions of bulbs rise each spring from this fertile delta muck to form an immense, delicate ocean of swaying tulips, an ocean so fragrant and sweet that the air itself becomes perfume, the body scent of the land's primped and painted face. A spectral spirit, born of dreams and dreamers. An unexpected forest, rooted in yesterday, rising into tomorrow. Here in the Pacific Northwest, no land stands fallow. Upon all ground, something grows. Upon this land grows Seattle. The city hugs the shore as if sustaining itself by the power of the reciprocating tide. Seattle defines the sound, and the sound defines Seattle, as together they wrap themselves sensuously around the lithe, curvaceous beach, trading a regulated urban grid for a more sweeping, more creative attitude, commuting by ship, skiing the wind, plowing forward in eager, restless anticipation. A spectral spirit born of dreams and dreamers. The clattering tin-horn dreams of starry-eyed prospectors. The robust and muscular dreams of lumberjacks. Airmen and their dreams of soaring. Seamen with their dreams that reach out beyond horizons. And millions more haunt Seattle's twinkling nights. All these and millions more built this forest of glass and light and endless possibilities. To gaze upon this city is to gaze upon a field of stars, one for every vision ever born here, one for every dream ever dreamed. Above quiet lakes, forested meadows, tranquil deciduous forests, looms an ancient vertebrate beast, its rocky spine 1,000 miles long. Quiet for now, dormant and slumbering, this skeletal artifact rears up motionless and primitive, bearing proudly the slashes and scars of its fiery creation. Here in the north, piled up against the Canadian border, the Cascades bulge out and up to form the cranial remains of an awesome petrified raptor. These are the baked and blasted bones of prehistory's anguished labor, the mute ghost of violent battles past that once shook this post-Jurassic place. Her fire gone, her heat remains. Mount Baker, the northernmost magus of the mighty Cascade Pantheon. Stately and magnificent, she reigns as a monarch among monarchs, watchful of her subjects ranged silent and obedient around her, and casting her royal gaze out over the hems of an emerald skirt, flowing away smoothly and softly to the sea. These ramparts, once feared and fearsome obstacles, have over time been content to strike with man a fragile truce. We may use these wild and dangerous places as refuge and recreation. We may play upon these streams and waterways, scale these facetious faces, but we do so at our peril. For the treaty is a tenuous one, and our license can be easily and violently revoked. The rivers ran thick with liquid earth, and mighty forests were brought to their knees. And the air was filled with the roar of 1,000 battles and the dust of 1,000 armies. Day turned to night, and in the blink of an eye, Mount St. Helens, the brilliant southern jewel of the Cascade Crown, self-destructed in a pyroclastic spasm of rage and fury. She stands now in lopsided disfigurement, a curiosity, burned out, blasted facsimile of her former self. Yet if one looks carefully enough, there is still a haunting echo of a previous beauty, regal bones beneath scarred skin. Or is it a distant reflection of something more disquieting? Is it the realization that, having endured her cruel fate, deep inside St. Helens, an angry fire burns still? If Washington has one central theme, one magnetic pole, one essential self, this is it: Mount Rainier. No other symbol so defines us, no other monument so captures our imaginations, our dreams, and our aspirations. Monolithic in reality, yet in our hearts and in our souls it stands larger still, larger than life, symbolically visible from every corner of the state. Rainier seems to represent the values at our core: challenge, struggle, pride, and ultimately, achievement. By an unlikely trick of the wind and a flat Cascadian shadow not of light but of rain, an improbable landscape lies baking and barren in dry desert air. Silence, broken only by drafty whisper or rattle of warning. Desiccated crenellations toss and roll horizon to horizon in gritty waves, an ocean of sand and rock in featureless isolation. And yet, in its singular essence, a strange and terrible beauty emerges. Beauty based not on a sweet and gentle disposition, but a more elemental inner beauty, born of harsh reality, and a wisdom won on survival's hard scrabble edge. Beneath a sun of good grace and temperate generosity stretches the Palouse, a bountiful and beneficent land, where the wild, lavish growth of the coastal jungle gives gentle way to a more systematic and organized germination. Here is practiced that most ancient and most human of arts, cultivation. Cultivation of crops, cultivation of values, cultivation of an exacting yet rewarding way of life that stretches back to the very dawn of man. Here roots grow deep and strong in this wide and fertile valley, still named in the language of its earliest inhabitants. Here the precious ore of humanity runs through the soil in rich seams. Here the fruits of labor are harvested from the branches of apple trees and the stalks of winter wheat. Here hymns are sung on Sundays and remembered all week long. Here the world is as temporal as the next harvest and as eternal as heaven. These are the great arteries of Washington, moving in serpentine canyons, the lifeblood of a state. They prowl in perpetual restlessness, forever captive to the irresistible force of gravity, sentenced to an unstoppable course of dizzying twists and turns, imprisoned in solid rock, forever flowing, calling no place home. Rivers of destiny, holding in their slippery embrace the ultimate fate of the lands they visit, master and slave, served and servant. Though imprisoned themselves by canyon walls and muddy banks, they are, in fact, liberators, as highways, as power generators, as sources of life-giving irrigation, and as shiny, liquid playgrounds. In some ways, it's almost as if time stands still here in the land of the Pend d'Oreille. In some ways, the echoes of the past don't seem like echoes at all, but more like invitations to saddle up and ride the land. Ride it as our forebears rode it. Ride it with the spirit and abandon of an era less restricted, less conformed. The pleasures of the Pend d'Oreille are the pleasures of simplicity. There are no fences. Here on this rolling frontier, life seems reduced to the elemental sensations of sun on the shoulders and wind in the face, the basic scents of leather and sweat and meadow flowers, and the instinctual attraction of boundless, measureless freedom. This land is the masterpiece of creation, a canvas splashed with impossible colors, a timeless symphony for an ageless orchestra. This land whispers words too beautiful to write, sings hymns too heavenly to hear, thinks thoughts too splendid to contemplate. This land is a land of dreams, conjured up in an instant of perfect sleep, from which we pray never to awaken. Washington the Beautiful. It slips silently from countless blinds, soars breathlessly on silken wings, and leaps joyously from behind endless stately stone walls. Washington the Beautiful, a never-ending journey. A book in which each page is prelude, each image a prism through which to view the next. Washington the Beautiful, a quest without a conclusion, where the soul of beauty is eternal and the essence of beauty is beauty discovered.